totally forgot I muted myself. I apologize. Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode. This is Revolution Podcast. If you are new to the channel, that doesn't happen too often. Seriously. If you are new to the channel, please hit like, please hit subscribe, as we are constantly adding new streams, new shows, cross-streaming with other leftist shows constantly. Also, for our patrons, next Friday, should be next Friday, movie night is coming up. We'll be watching my new favorite movie. It is a 1992 hip-hop classic, Fly By Night. You can hear some of the, I believe you young people call them dope rhymes. Some of the dopest rhymes and flyest verses, like this. Surprise how many people love the crap. Toussaint, are you there?
Yes, I am. I am.
Are you surprised how many people love the crap?
Often. I'm often surprised. I mean, salespeople don't like to hear it, but it does sell itself, right?
We'll be watching this movie, and unlike normal movie nights where we watch the film and then have a bit of a discussion afterwards, we are going to be pausing the movie. I want to give you guys pause control as well, because there definitely are scenes that confuse me in this movie. I'm sure there will be moments you'll be like, wait a minute. Can you rewind that? Did that just happen? Oh, yeah. It's going to be a good time. Pascal says it's going to be a triggering evening. He's right. It is going to be a triggering evening. But again, you'd be surprised how many people love the crap. Remember, that's just one song in this movie, where they don't, most of these hip-hop movies bring in other songs from other artists, right, Toussaint? Like,
Right.
that's what these movies were known for, like the soundtracks. Remember the Boys in the Hood soundtrack?
Oh, vaguely. I remember Juice.
Do you remember the Nino Brown, New Jack City soundtrack?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This isn't that.
Nope.
This is all music from this movie. It is rap songs written by people that don't like rap. I don't think they ever liked rap, because none of these songs sound like rap. But that's just my opinion. This may be music to your ears. So that's going on for movie night. It's for patrons. If you want to be a patron, if you want to participate in this group participation movie night that I'm actually getting kind of stoked for, there's only one way to do it. Patreon.com/Bitter Lake Presents. Should be links in the description. I'm sure M. Toussaint is putting links in the chat.
Yep.
For you guys to do that. As low as $30 for the whole year. We do a movie night every month. This will be the last one that I have a say-so in. I'm sure Pascal is ready to take away my movie night picking privileges.
Yeah. He already has a movie lined up.
Hey, that's what he's here for.
Mm-hmm.
He's here for the serious analysis. And he is also here for picking movie night. He has his own show.
That's true.
I don't have my own show.
That's true.
People have taken over my show. So like a guest in my own house.
The Taco Meat has its own show.
Well,
Top billing.
Look, I told you guys that I'm trying to get in shape for the New York show in October, because the shorts must get shorter and the shirt has to get unbuttoned lower. It wasn't unbuttoned low enough. I'm trying to get down to the navel.
For it to be unbuttoned lower, you should speak some Spanish or some Creole. We need something going.
I just watched a thing for a movie called Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Have you ever heard of that?
No. Is
Did
that
you
a?
ever watch- Did you have
that-
cable as a child?
I did, but I was a
Uh,
child.
okay, but still,
Hey.
I had like bootleg cable growing up, where someone gets it. My cable fell off a truck.
Alrighty.
I'm sure I'm not the only person watching the show that had similar cable, but Cinemax is an amazing channel because they would have these action movies on. I think it was Friday night or like Thursday night. Just insane action movies. We'll probably talk about this more in the patron champagne room because today
Mhm.
we're breaking away from our usual format. As you guys probably know, Pascal and Cuba are not going to be here this evening. They have the evening off. Cuba was recently on Doug Lane's Sublation Media. So please check out
Mhm.
Cuba's appearance on Doug Lane's, I think it was Diet Soap.
Yep.
They did a special stream about the assassination of the former Japanese prime minister. Cuba gave a very, very, very in-depth, deep dive on that. So if you want to check that out when you're done watching here, please go to Diet Soap. Um, all of us are affiliated with that. Gene Bajlan is an editor for Sublation Media's magazine. I have some stuff published in there. Kuba does. Definitely Stefan has some stuff published in there. And Stefan actually has a book coming out on Sublation
Oh,
as well. Did you know that?
no, I didn't.
Did you know there's a movie about his life coming out as well?
Are you serious?
As a heart attack.
Is it about his hair? Because I would totally watch that. I would totally watch that. Watch the hell out of that. He does
And
other stuff too besides his hair, though.
well, his hair is going to be a focal point in the
Right.
movie. I was told the actor that's playing him is doing research and trying to figure out exactly what Stefan puts in his hair to make it flow
Got
the
to be
way
a
it
trade
does and have
secret.
that bounce. So there's no wig in this. This ain't like Motley Crue's The Dirt. Oh no, no, that guy's growing his hair out, but I can't
As
tell
he
you who it
should.
is.
Okay. Okay. It's not Chris Hemsworth.
You're close.
Okay. Okay. It's his brother, right?
You're closer,
All right. All right. All right.
but yeah, I had never heard of the guy, but he's like a big time. This is like I'm proud of Stefan's. Just wait. Guys won't be calling him Skinny Thor anymore.
He earned that title, though.
Whoever called him, who called him Thor Guevara?
Oh, I don't remember.
Was that a Steve thing?
That was good. Steve was dope. Maybe it was Steve.
Steve and Good JB are pretty good for some belly laughs. Like I have to go off screen and make sure the snot isn't showing.
Jeez.
I'm laughing so hard. But tonight we are taking on a specific topic, and that topic is immigration. One thing I realized as a young boy growing up in the Bay Area was that the mainstream immigration debate seemed to be one of posturing and not really one of substance. Even without reading any Marx, I understood that capitalism benefits greatly from the labor of the undocumented. That being said, tonight, Pascal and Kuba, like I said before, are off. And sadly, our original guest, Dan Mello, had a family emergency. He can't make it. But that's okay because the person that is our guest tonight originally was pretty much going to host the show. Like I was going to turn it on and I was going to give it to them. Um,
That's what
uh,
she said.
oh, shit.
No
Damn.
hetero. Sorry.
Damn. And I asked for that because I said, "Can you turn on the charm?" And I'm already in a
Yeah.
better mood. I feel a team here, Tucson.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need Pascal.
Let him sleep.
Let him sleep. You just get him on Saturdays. How about that?
There you go.
Now everyone's the drop off in patrons will start. Um, our guest for tonight, who was originally going to be doing most of the questioning with Dan, has almost 20 years experience in working in immigration law. Also, if you're new to the show, she's been on a few times. Her last appearance was with the irreverent Norm Finkelstein. No? No one has anything to say about Norm? But
No.
before we bring in our guest, Jessica San Luis, let's play a clip, an older clip.
Tens of thousands of these
From the first time Dan Mello came on the show, which is almost a year to the day. Did you know that, Toussaint?
Oh, wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's been a year since we made Dan Mello the star that he is today. True story. I hope Dan's watching. Hope you're watching. After he did the show, his book was like the #1 book about immigration law on Amazon.
Wow.
I don't know what that really means in dollars and cents,
Uh-huh.
because that is a very, very narrow.
That's true, but it is a hot topic for a lot of people.
Like, I get excited. We get the thing called Chartable, and Chartable sends you a list of where you are on the audio podcast. And recently, and I don't know if you know this, we were #6 in America on Apple for music podcasts hosted by Black people that sometimes throw the ball left-handed.
Wow. A lot of qualifiers, but that is
Lot of
still a big
qualifiers.
deal.
It is.
I like computers with fruit on them.
All seriousness, we were #6 in music commentary because for whatever reason, this is a music show.
I did see that.
I can't change
Yeah.
that. I can't change that category.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, fuck it. You know, as long as I'm better than Questlove.
Wow. Shots fired.
Yeah. Take that, Questlove. You know what, Questlove? You know what?
eat a bowl of fuck.
Take that, Questlove.
Nice.
We're coming for you.
Way to make friends.
Your star-studded show. But yeah, we were actually #6 in music. So just so you know, Toussaint,
Mhm.
you're on the Apple charts. Did you know that?
That's dope. I
You
was
have to look
hoping
at
we were.
If you look at music, we're in the top 20 in music, or were.
That's great. You guys really appreciate it. Please leave reviews and give us a high rating. No 4s, okay? Give us all 5 stars. You can afford to give all 5 stars. Here's that.
That's the only way we can see those reviews people leave, and they leave more reviews than I thought they left.
That's fantastic ish. Yes, just you can say whatever you want, but give a 5. How about that? Give a
Fuck
5.
these people 5 stars.
Exactly. These people suck. 5 stars. I hope they can pay their rent. It's good. It's good. It's healthy.
I hope people know that I'm just joking, and Questlove's show is actually a show I listen to quite often. I used to listen to it a lot. But I'm coming for you, Questlove. And that fucking afro. Didn't he go to your school, Toussaint?
I don't think so.
He went
I
to
think
some
he-
performing arts school with the rapper
It was
guys.
probably in Philly. Yeah.
They have
there are a
those
lot.
schools in Philly?
They have those schools all over the country.
They didn't have. If they had one in the Bay, I didn't know about it.
We gotta look into that. You probably know people from there. Probably Bertrand went to one. He's talented.
I'm gonna see Bertram soon, so we're gonna have a conversation. Did I send you the pictures of when me and Bertram were hanging out last week or a couple weeks ago?
I don't think you did. Maybe I saw one. I don't know. Was there a llama in it? No. Okay, so maybe not.
But I do want to play this clip. Well, I'm going to get serious, and then the whole mood is going to get really dark and depressing. But I want to bring our guest in to kind of get you guys in the mood for what we're going to talk about today. which is pretty much the remain in Mexico policy. So here is, bam. Mute myself before you guys start complaining about the echo.
Workers are brought across the border from Mexico every year. They are given a quickie physical examination at El Centro, then sent to work on big farms in the Imperial Valley, the San Joaquin Valley, the Salinas Valley, the Santa Clara Valley. They work mostly for big farmers who call themselves growers, although they personally grow and harvest only profits. Before World War II, most of the workers in California's fields were domestic agricultural laborers, following the crops every year. During the war, a farm labor shortage developed. Mexican workers were brought in to meet the emergency. Then the war ended. The emergency was over. But the employers knew a good thing when they saw one. They decided to keep on importing braceros from Mexico under agreements between the U.S. and Mexican governments. Now they prefer Mexican nationals to domestic labor, not because of some sentimental attachment for Mexican food or Mexican culture or Mexican music, nor because of any real shortage of domestic American labor. It is because a big supply of imported Mexican labor forces down the real wages of American farm workers. It is because an endless supply of destitute contract labor means more profits for the owners of California's rich soil and guarantees them against organization of these workers into unions.
Ever since the United States ceased to be a colony of the British Empire, immigration has been used as a tool of the ruling class to regulate labor. While xenophobic fears may ignite passionate debate, capitalism is the driving factor in the bipartisan draconian immigration legislation we see to this day. We'll discuss capitalism's role in the United States southern border policy and more. This is Revolution.
I'm very pleased that you could all be here today. I know how busy you've been with events leading up to Tuesday's election, and I want to congratulate all of you in the House of Representatives who've just been re-elected. This bill, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 that I'll sign in a few minutes, is the most comprehensive reform of our immigration laws since 1952. It's the product of one of the longest and most difficult legislative undertakings in the last three Congresses. Further, it's an excellent example of a truly successful bipartisan effort.
¿De dónde son ustedes? ¿Y tú?
Guatemala.
No llores. Vas a llegar con... Mira, ella te va a explicar y te va a ayudar. ¿Cierto, Consuelo?
Te va a pasar con su consulado.
Papá.
What'd you think of that one, Toussaint?
Not very funny.
No.
Very sad. Very
No,
sad
it
stuff.
is. It is. It
Yeah.
was hard to do, actually.
Hearing the kids crying. And was that a guy with a baby trying to get through barbed wire?
Yeah, that's actually stock footage. It's actually from a site that I get my stock footage from. That was they have a whole bunch. They have the whole scene.
Oh
It's pretty
gosh.
disgusting.
Yeah.
But please welcome a very good, very close friend and immigration expert, Jessica San Luis.
Hello.
Did you make that face because you don't want to be my very good friend? I'll take it back. It's just
No.
so.
There you go. I made that face because I love to be the bringer of doom and gloom. It's my preferred role in life.
Well,
Here I am.
if it makes you feel any better, I made the video, not you. And what you're going to bring is clarity. I brought the doom and gloom, and you can bring the clarity. Is that better?
I think I'm probably just
Right?
gonna bring more doom and gloom, unfortunately.
Oh,
It can bring clarity.
I know that was a hard watch, and making it was definitely difficult. Brought me to tears, especially at the end. There was actually even more footage of children crying. But it was the desperate cries of children that brought attention to the Remain in Mexico policy of the Trump administration. And before him, it was Barack Obama playing politics, speaking of dreamers, with DACA and deporting more people than any other president in history. I live less than 100 miles from the U.S. border, and I'm constantly faced with the fallout of those policies. But much like recent footage of the Uvalde shooting, another border town, has captured the eye of the populace, it is these cries from small children and the horrific conditions they are subjected to tend to get our attention. And I think because we have a new administration, for the most part, uh, the conversation about immigration is pretty much ended. Would you agree?
I don't think a good conversation about immigration has actually really happened yet. I mean, most administrations that come through, they pitch their new immigration proposals, much like Reagan in his Immigration Reform and Control Act, that we lovingly call IRCA because people in the legal field really, really love their acronyms. They're really wedded to them.
Mhm.
So, as I'm sure you have read, when Reagan proposed IRCA and signed it into law, it was supposed to be this great thing for people. And this huge amnesty, and that's how it's pitched to the American public. That's the conversation we have, and it's kind of a smoke shield.
Well, first question, and I think this is probably going to set the tone for a lot of the conversation. What has changed with the Biden administration and the Remain in Mexico policy? You know, before COVID hit, it was immigration that was going to be an Achilles heel for Trump's reelection because of the idea of children in cages, regardless if those cages were built before Trump. His building a wall rhetoric, which is actually something I see whenever I cross the imaginary line. I actually see the wall. What has changed with the Biden administration, and what is the Remain in Mexico policy for those of us that don't really understand the political gist of it?
So the Remain in Mexico policy is actually, it was called by the Trump administration the Migrant Protection Protocol. And it was a bunch of different proposals that the Trump administration brought forward, but people like to call it Remain in Mexico because that's the largest part of it. So we have to go back historically the way asylum seekers are processed at the border. So there are a couple ways to apply for asylum. Some people come into the United States with valid non-immigrant visas. So they come on visitors visas or student visas, and then they're allowed to apply for asylum within 180 days of entry without suffering some negative consequences of unlawful presence, which is complicated and we don't need to get into it. Another way that people apply for asylum is presenting themselves at a border and saying, I have fear of returning to my home country. And before Trump's policy, officers would have to give them what's called a credible fear interview at the border. And those officers were tasked with determining whether or not these people had a credible fear of returning to their home country. And there's a bunch of different prongs of that examination. It's not very in-depth. And these officers, in my opinion, aren't very good at it. But if people had a credible fear, they were permitted to be in the United States. They were called paroled in, and they could get work permits. They could work in the United States legally. They weren't eligible for a lot of benefits, but they were eligible for some. And they could start establishing a residence here while their asylum applications were processed. When Trump came into office, he liked to use his, fear-mongering tactics to promote this idea that these people should not be paroled in, even if they have a credible fear. They should be made to wait outside the border for their asylum applications to process. And a lot of people thought this was a great idea. We don't want these people coming in, taking all of our resources, taking all of our jobs, all that stuff. The problem with that is that people that are waiting for their asylum applications to process, it can take years. USCIS, which is the administrative body that processes a lot of applications, they are backlogged to a level that they have not been ever in the history of this country. COVID's part of that. But back when I was working at an immigration law firm, there were lawsuits because of the backlog, and it's much worse now. So people are sitting in Mexico waiting under this remain in Mexico policy indefinitely. They don't have resources. There's no infrastructure. I know you've been to a border town, but if people have been to border towns, Tijuana, any of the border towns that are near the ports of entry,
Juarez.
Juarez is a bad one. There's no infrastructure. There's no place that you can go and say, I don't have a job, I don't have a place to go, can you help me? There's a lot of crime. In fact, Human Rights Watch, when Remain in Mexico was put into place, was saying, this is putting these people at huge risk of kidnapping, assault, rape, murder. And this is the situation that these are people seeking asylum from all over the place. They've already been through the worst. And Trump's administration said, okay, you may have a credible fear of returning. You may die if you return to your home country, but we're going to make you sit in this border town and think about it for a while.
And back to something that you had tweeted out, I think it was either today or yesterday. I know we had a personal conversation about it, was because as we were both Bay Area natives, for longtime viewers of the show, you know that I love getting people from my high school. Jessica's also from the wonderful Albany High. Cougars in the house.
Let's not talk about what year, so I can pretend like I'm still 39.
You were 39 in the Reagan years.
Hey.
Ouch.
She's only 1 year older than me. I know how old she is. But the new district attorney in San Francisco, what's her name? Kamala-Tu?
Brooke Jenkins.
Brooke Kamala-Tu. Brooke Jenkins, actually, who was in Boudin's office, and I don't know if you want to get into your conspiracy theories about that, which I thought were kind of funny and interesting. But and I hope Derek Varn is watching, by the way. Varn, if you're still there, I would like to get your take on this as well. Brooke Jenkins said she's going to review the deals that were made during Chesa Boudin's reign as district attorney, because one of the things, again, that he was trying to do was reimagine the district attorney's office as an extension of the public defender's office. So that means you're not trying to punish people for what I would call, I don't know if you guys would agree, quality of life crimes. A lot of the drug dealing, I would say the majority of the drug dealing that goes on in San Francisco is Latin. And was it majority was Honduran? I think even the article said. Was it the Chronicle or the SF Gate? I can't remember.
That was SF Gate, the one that I.
SF Gate. And can you explain how he was prosecuting people so they wouldn't get deported or have deportable offense?
So a lot of the stuff that Chesa Boudin was doing, and he wasn't trying to be an extension of the public defender's office because that upsets the wheels of justice and nobody likes that. But
don't tell that to the people that outed him.
Working in conjunction with the public defender's office, which honestly, a good DA's office, that's what they should do. Makes the wheels of justice move a lot smoother. But what he was trying to do was refer more cases to what's called diversion in California. So instead of serving jail time or paying fines, you take classes, especially if drugs are the issue, you take AA or NA classes, and you have to take a certain number for a year, and then basically your case goes away. And it helps immigrants because any criminal contact, like, let's be honest, there's really bad case law. I mean, even if you're arrested for a crime, you don't have to be convicted to be put in immigration proceedings. but any immigration contact for immigrants, and this means green card holders as well, they are not immune, puts their immigration status at risk. And Chesa Boudin was kind of trying to find creative ways within the law. They're there. They were enacted by legislation to get these people rehabilitated in their communities, especially for petty crimes, so that they don't come to the attention of immigration. You know, their records end up somewhat being clear. It's a little more complicated than that, but you know, it's a good thing. It's less people in detention. It's less people getting removed. You're not breaking up families. You're keeping hardworking people in the community.
And what Brooke Jenkins is going to do is review all these, because I guess there were people that were caught with drugs, and but they didn't get hit with a intent to distribute, which was a deportable offense.
Well, so what Brooke Jenkins is doing is she is taking all of the, you know, San Francisco is a big county, so thousands of pending cases with pending offers from her office. She wants her deputy district attorneys to review every single one of them. And the biggest issue I have with that, besides that it's just a waste of manpower, is that she's not going to differentiate on the drug crimes, at least this is what people are saying, between possession, simple possession, and possession with intent to sell. And you're absolutely correct. Simple possession, especially if it's a first offense, it is a deportable crime, but there's a waiver to keep you in the country. Possession with intent to distribute, intent to sell, possession of anything more than a certain amount is deportable. Arguably, there's no waiver. And it creates a real problem for the people that are convicted of that. It also hinges on the sentence that you get. So if you get less than 365 days in county jail, you are in a better position immigration-wise than if you get more.
And none of these people had went to trial, right? These were all deals, because most cases don't go to trial anyway.
I mean, I haven't reviewed them. I would wager a guess that that's true, because it's less than 5% of criminal cases that go to trial in the state of California.
You didn't review all 3,000 cases before you came on the show? What the fuck?
I did not, because I have a day job.
I don't want to hear it.
I like my day job.
Well, you know what I like? When you review all 4,000 cases.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just kind of taking it back. Didn't it used to be the case that if you were an immigrant here, and you were not a citizen, you weren't a naturalized citizen, if you were arrested, you would go to immigration court, not to criminal court? But that was changed recently. Okay. Please.
So it's a good question, though, because the process is, I would argue, deliberately confusing. So if you're arrested for a crime and you're a permanent resident or anything besides a U.S. citizen, asylee is a little different, but not that much. If you're arrested for a crime, your criminal case will process. And then if you're convicted, and a lot of times if you're not convicted but you're still in criminal custody, that county will notify immigration and customs. And we used to call them detainers, because they would come in on the fax machine and they would have like USCIS's header, and you would know that your client was being detained by immigration authorities. A lot of counties, starting in the 90s, stopped reporting to ICE because they didn't believe that these people should be put into immigration custody. Most of the Bay Area counties, except for San Mateo, because nobody loves San Mateo, stopped reporting to ICE. And that's at the point where immigration would either take custody of these people or decline to take custody. And then if it was up to immigration to decide whether or not they wanted to prosecute these people in immigration proceedings. And people have to realize, and I've always wondered if this was deliberate, immigration law is not criminal, it's administrative. And it makes me wonder sometimes if the federal government did that deliberately to get around the constitutional preclusion against double jeopardy. So these people are somewhat being tried twice for their crimes, but not because immigration law is administrative.
Yikes. I did not realize that.
Yeah,
And that's still true. That's still how it works.
So if you guys want to get more in depth with what we're talking about, we've done actually quite a few shows on immigration because actually another former colleague of Jessica's been on the show, Raha Georgiani, when she had some kind of a really sad case where a man had been tried and given his asylum, then retried, and then tried another time, a third time, and then I think they're just still waiting. I think he's still in custody as we speak. And he's been in custody so long. He's gotten COVID a few times. He definitely hasn't seen his child. All because he got a DUI. He can't go back to El Salvador because an FBI informant had put a gang tattoo on his neck. So if he was to go back, most likely he would die. All of his family is in the States. But because he's being held civil custody in an immigration facility, detention facility, he has to wait.
And the two saddest parts about that are, one, if you are not a natural born citizen, if you naturalize, you are never home free. There is a denaturalization process that immigration can put you through, mostly for terrorist grounds. And the other sad part about that is that the United States Supreme Court just issued a decision saying that immigrants in proceedings like that can be detained indefinitely. There used to be some ways around that, and now they've pretty much stomped all over the Ninth Circuit Court on that, which is California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Oregon.
Thank you for explaining, because most people don't know what the circuits mean.
I can't remember how many circuits there are, so forgive me. There's like 12.
Once again, not doing the homework.
Yeah. Day job.
Take a day off. Goddamn.
Is that law about unnaturalizing naturalized citizens new?
No, it's been around forever.
I told my mother that. She owes me $50.
I
told her not to act up.
Oh, someone says 13 circuits. Thank you. Yeah, it's been around forever. I actually had a client who went through denaturalization proceedings. It's pretty miserable.
I told her not to act up. She not home
Well,
free.
also a lot of people don't understand immigration laws have a lot to do with capitalism, because a majority of the English that came over as indentured servants. And a lot of the laws we have now for naturalizing just were based on that, and then later laws were made to break up the difference between indentured servants and slaves, and it's a mess.
I'm glad you brought that up because it goes to the video that you showed. So the Bracero program was very popular. There are a lot of people that got status. There are a lot of people who didn't regularize their status. And it just shows how these things go in waves. So at the time of the gold rush and the building of the railroad, Chinese immigrants came over in droves. And once all of that was kind of done, we didn't need their labor anymore, the government instituted the Chinese Exclusion Act, sent them all back home. And that's it. That's what keeps happening. We want your labor until we don't want your labor anymore, and then you can leave. It doesn't matter if you've been here for 20 years and established yourself, bought a home, have a family.
That being said, in a city like San Francisco that, again, outed their quote-unquote progressive district attorney for one that is more liberal, one of the main complaints of the citizens is petty crime. And if you look at a lot of the complaints for a lot of people throughout the country, as people try to say, well, murder rates are down, ergo crime is down. That's not 100% true. Petty crime is up. And in a city like we live in, San Francisco, where it's a tech mecca, everybody's got a laptop for free in their car. Oakland and San Francisco are cities that you're going to get your window busted out. People know your backpack is hiding under the seat, so they're just going to bust the window out and look under the seat. So property theft was a huge issue that was ignored. And I think the fact that this DA is looking at, well, the problem is these illegals that deals were made. too. Do you think we're going to see more of that throughout the country?
Yeah, because people are suffering financially. I mean, you've talked about this on the show a lot, and we've talked about it outside the show. The Bay Area is unlivable. I mean, unless you're making over six figures, it's totally unlivable. And the problem with that is that the people are already living here. People are established here. People like us grew up here. It's not like we can't just pick up and leave. So we're stuck trying to survive in a place that we can't afford. And petty crime is going to keep going up, and that's going to happen everywhere. You know, the unhoused population is skyrocketing in every county in the Bay Area. And people are going to be stealing for their food. People are going to be siphoning gas. You know, people are going to be stealing out of cars.
There is some gas siphoning going on. There's actually a thing that I've actually seen when I was in West Oakland. I was like, oh, wow, it's getting to that point again. I do think that unlike the 90s, where tough on crime laws were fear-mongered by tales of gang violence, this is going to be a little different because tough on crime laws are going to be fear-mongered with petty property crime.
I mean, that's what I think the majority of the people who are in control, who have the financial, status to be, that's what they're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, violent crime's down everywhere for the most part. Petty crime is up. And, people are angry. This is my stuff and I want to keep it. They get real righteous about it.
Even when your company gave you the laptop, the bag,
that's right.
everything in the car. As a person that worked for one of those places for a while, everything is given to you. That being said, I want to get back to the immigration topic. And can we talk a little bit about Reagan's IRCA Act and what it did? Because does this make Reagan a progressive on immigration? The fact that so many, was it 3 million people got citizenship with the swipe of a pen? Why can't Joe Biden do the same thing?
Not citizenship, but you're close. So IRCA, the Immigration Reform and Control Act, it was interesting. It was pitched to the American public as we're doing this amnesty thing for all of these people. There were two groups of people that were eligible for amnesty, which means that they were here undocumented. I don't ever use the word illegal. They were here undocumented, and they wanted to become green card holders. And so Reagan was like, yeah, we're going to, all of you guys, if you were here undocumented before January 1st of 1982, or you worked as a special agricultural worker for at least 90 days before, I think it was May of 86, which was when it passed, when IRCA passed, you'd get amnesty. You could become a green card holder. And everyone was like, oh, this is great. We love these people. They work for us. And, a lot of liberals were like, hey, Republican president, this is fantastic. What IRCA also instituted was the strictest penalties for employers who employ undocumented immigrants. It was the first time federal law was enacted that required them to fill out an I-9. I'm sure everybody's filled out an I-9. We can thank IRCA for that. It never existed before then.
Really?
Yep. You have to prove that you are a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident eligible to work in the United States, or you have a work permit. Otherwise, you can't get a job. So the I-9 was created from this promulgated legislation. And what IRCA did was it took all of these people, small business owners, big business owners, farm owners. If you employed 3 or more people, you had to report them to the federal government, and you had to show paperwork that they were eligible to work. The fines were astronomical. It cost thousands of people their jobs. So while Reagan on the one hand is like, hey, I'm the great president, I'm giving you all green cards, he was taking the employers and saying, get rid of all of these people that don't have permission to work, or we will fine you for every single one of them. It hurt businesses of all sizes, and it hurt all of the workers.
Well, what do you say to certain pundits that say that is the way to handle the immigration problem? Don't punish the immigrant, punish the employer. What do you say to that logic?
I think it's bad logic because, the employers need these people to be working for them, and these people need to be working, right? It's a symbiotic relationship, but it's a decent one, obviously, as long as labor laws are followed and all that stuff. And what came of IRCA and the sweeps after that, where immigration would go into, they would target restaurants, they would go into restaurants and factories, and they'd do sweeps. And they would pick people up, and it was under the guise of, we want to make sure that you have documentation to work. What they would do is anybody who didn't have valid immigration documentation, they'd round them up, throw them in jail, and put them in deportation proceedings. So it was an enforcement tool more than anything else.
So you're saying it was more of an enforcement tool to round people up than it was to give people citizenship?
Yeah, permanent residence. Most immigration legislation has that kind of backhanded aspect to it.
Now, another piece of legislation that you say is a bit backhanded, where you told me once that Barack Obama talked out of both sides of his mouth, is DACA. Can you explain the both sides ishness of DACA? Because if you remember, when DACA was when Trump was trying to end it, there was a huge push to keep it. So can you kind of explain that real quick?
DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and it was relief enacted by Obama in 2012. And it basically said if you were brought to the United States as a child and have lived here continuously since then, for the most part, if you're under the age of 31 when the law went into effect, got here before your 16th birthday, attended school here, lived in the community, currently studying, are a graduate, or have gotten your GED, you get a temporary status. You get a work permit, and you can't be deported. You don't get a green card automatically. And a lot of the people that qualify for DACA do not qualify for green cards. It is not a direct vehicle. I mean, I can talk more about that if you want, but
yes.
Okay. So in order to get a green card through DACA, you kind of have to meet the same eligibility requirements as everybody else. So you either have to have come into the United States legally and not violated your status, or you it gets really complicated, or you're eligible to leave the United States and process a waiver in another country. Like, just because you get DACA doesn't mean you get a green card after 5 years. It's way more complicated than that. I think people really misunderstood that. And DACA's been helpful for a lot of things. I mean, DACA has been great for people who had no ability to work but have grown up here. And people who are in removal proceedings, deportation proceedings, who wanted relief, who didn't want to get deported. I mean, there's a ton of people that have been here since they were infants, deporting them to countries like Vietnam and Cambodia, don't speak the language, don't understand the culture, no family there, right? It's pretty terrifying, and that happens a lot. So DACA was great for those people, but at the same time Obama was doing this, he deported more people than any administration before or since. And in that way, to me, it really was a smokescreen. I mean, it's great for the people that benefit from DACA, but he broke up tens of thousands of families and sent half of them over the border. I think it was in the millions, 2.5 million people by 2015. 2.5 million.
And also, can you explain? Oftentimes, there's these terminologies that you hear when people talk immigration, and one of the talking points was catch and release,
Yeah.
which I think is a very horrible policy framing. It's an extremely dehumanizing term. Do you see a lot of U.S. immigration policies as dehumanizing? If so, do you have some examples from your time in the industry that can kind of shed some light on how it actually works from the inside?
So CIS, which is the administrative arm of, so the legacy INS, which is what people are familiar with, Immigration and Naturalization Service, was split up into different groups. So there was Citizenship and Immigration Services, which processes administrative applications. There was CBP, which people know, Customs and Border Protection. They're the guys at the border whenever you cross into San Diego. And then there's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and they're the legal enforcement arm. So they're the attorneys for the Immigration Service. They're the ones that are going to court and, trying to deport people. Catch and release, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they love to come up with catchy names for their operations. So like one of them is Operation Return to Sender, which is in the early 2000s. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. The early 2000s, they were supposedly targeting gang members, and what they were doing was they were doing sweeps of known gang areas, picking up people who had prior deportation orders who never left the country. And they were assuring the American public it's 1,000 people in one area. It's not that many. We're not picking up people who aren't in unlawful status, or not picking up people who don't have. They picked up, I think, 23,000 people and put them into removal proceedings.
Wow.
So catch and release is not actually an immigration policy. It's kind of a catch-all term that Trump used to foment fear, because when it refers to a lot of different immigration policies over several decades, but specifically what people I think equate it to is there is a policy that if someone is picked up and they apply for an immigration benefit or they apply for asylum, they're released into the community pending the adjudication of their application. Remember, these people aren't criminals. They don't have criminal convictions. This isn't a criminal arrest. They're picked up because of a workplace sweep, or they're picked up, because they're traveling somewhere and they get stopped. They're released into the community to continue their lives, because I think people don't realize, at least in California, criminal cases, unless it's, a murder trial, criminal cases are usually done within a year and a half, start to finish. Immigration cases can drag on for decades, depending on how hard you fight, depending on the facts of your case. The average immigration case processes for years. So keeping all of these people in detention when they have no criminal background, they're no risk to the community, it's silly. Releasing them into their communities so they can live their lives and be productive members of their communities while their immigration cases are pending makes sense. But Trump's spin on it was they catch and release these criminals right into your neighborhood. They just let them go. I mean, you have to remember, after 9/11, the federal government keeps extremely close tabs on most immigrants. So it's not like they don't know where these people are. Once you're in removal proceedings, which is what deportation proceedings is now called, or since 97, so it's been a while. Once you're in removal proceedings, you have to update the federal government every time you move.
Whoa.
Yeah. If you don't, it's a violation. If you go in immigration court and the judge is like, hey, you still at 123 Easy Street, and you're like, no, you can get in trouble. Jesus. So it's not like these people are getting picked up and they're, nefarious criminal element, and they're just freed in your community to do damage. These are people that have been in your community for years. They work here, they live here, their kids go to school here. They're just being given kind of like a bond. A lot of them have to pay it to get out and spend the time with their children while their immigration cases are pending.
And if you can't afford the bond,
you stay in custody.
Okay, go ahead.
Bail bondsmen, most bail companies are more reticent to post immigration bonds because the overwhelming thought is that they are flight risks, which is actually not true. But sometimes it's really hard to get a bail bondsman. Sometimes you have to pay more than the 10%. Well, California it's 10% that the majority of bail bondsmen ask for.
Well, we are going to continue this very cheery conversation in the patron bonus champagne room, where the phone lines will be on. If you guys have questions for Jessica, if you guys have legal questions for Jessica, ask them in the champagne room. I do want to leave. I also want to let people know I talked to Mrs. Cobra. If you didn't know, Mike Cobra does all the images and designs for This Is Revolution. And someone asked about mouse pads and mugs, and apparently next week we're going to have mouse pads and mugs. Toussaint, are you going to get a mug?
I'd love a mug. I'm sure everything will taste better in my This Is Revolution mug.
Can I give you a mug in lieu of payment?
Maybe not.
Guess
We'll
it's not
discuss
going
it.
to taste that good.
It's not going to taste like revolution.
And that is what exploitation tastes like. If you wanted to know.
Yep.
Also, I was recently, the show was finally up a few weeks ago. I was on It's Not All in Your Head, a podcast with a handful of psychologists, and we discussed the unhoused. We talk a little bit about immigration, but definitely talk about drug addiction and the unhoused population. So I'm sure Tucson will put that up in the chat in no time because she's just so swift.
Don't gender me. Anyway.
I can't even do a misogynist Jason come back to that because I'm so out of that mode. You, Toussaint, your love has killed the misogynist inside.
Oh, nice. Like Roundup pesticide. Okay, good.
It is your audible hugs that you give that is just killing all the patriarchy in me.
Oh my God.
And we thank you
Okay.
for
You
All
believe
right.
that? Because you
Thank me
should.
for my service. That's awesome. Please come back on the show anytime you want. Can I give a shout out?
Can you give a shout out?
Yes. I'd like to give a shout out
Yes.
to J. Andrew World. It's his birthday today.
Oh shit! Shout out! Oh hey, happy birthday, James World!
Mhm.
And I hope you're having a great birthday and wilding out.
Be surprised how many people love to crack.
Oh. J. Andrew World is the illustrator who did the cover of Michael Brooks's book. He also works with Ben Burgess.
Mm-hmm.
He's super talented. Just
He's
want to say happy
also
birthday.
on Forrest's movie night extravaganza with
Mhm.
my good friend Conan Neutron. If you guys follow any of us on the Twitter, we're having a very great old man conversation. It was actually started by, I believe, a Zoomer, Jordan, is in the chat. I think Jordan's a Zoomer. I think Jordan's a very young person. Somehow, Jordan riled all of us up talking about the problems with nostalgia in the 80s and how it was the boomer generation that made Gen X so nihilistic. So it's a great Twitter thread between all those people. I don't think I said too much in it. I was just reading and enjoying. They weren't talking about cartoons, so I just didn't care. But I do want to leave on this note. This is a quote from Dan Mello's excellent book that all of you should pick up if you haven't picked it up already, Borderlines. Immigration law is a byproduct of class relations. It exists, as legal scholar Mary Bilder argues, in the shadow of slaves and indentured servants. Long before the nation's independence, the indentured servitude trade dominated the immigrant landscape in the American colonies, though the servants had yet to actually be termed immigrants. From 1650 to 1780, an estimated 600,000 Europeans migrated to the colonies, most of which were imported white servants, providing a much-needed labor force in the colonies. Apart from helping expand the economy directly, the human trade itself was profitable. Merchants received payment from the British government to ship convicts to the colonies, or payment from the colonies for the sale of convicts and other indentured servants. Bilder writes, for England's commercial culture, indentured servants were just one more article of commerce. Migrants were commodities, while early migrants were never treated like slaves. They were commoditized in a similar fashion. Not much has changed. This conversation, which never is uttered whenever you hear it on most media outlets, is a conversation about capitalism. And the way it's usually framed, in my opinion, goes into this theory thing I'm working on for this video essay about living in a moment of kayfabe, where you must protect the system at all costs. And generally what we see from our political figures is a lot of posturing. That's why we wanted to do the show today. I hope you guys learned a few things. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them on this show. Jessica actually reads them all. So if you have any questions for her, just leave it directly in the comments.
We're also on Reddit
Are we?
and Facebook. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
my daughter found us on Reddit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm terrified of Discord.
Why?
I don't.
Discord is life.
I get a message every so often that says you have messages in your Discord. I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to read them.
It's the mass
Pascal
shooters
can
giving
read all
Discord
the
a bad
messages.
name. Oh.
You give Discord a bad name. Should that be another drop? Should we do John Bon Jovi as a drop for the board?
I love
Yes.
Bon Jovi, so yes.
So do I.
So should we do that one?
Yes.
Go for it.
You want Bon Jovi as a? You know, I'm in a drop mode.
Yes.
Like I downloaded the app for this on the thing on my computer so I can do this easier.
We know what we're asking for.
Oh my God.
Let's do drop suggestions in the chat. Go.
Can you do also in the comments leave drop suggestions? I'm very happy with this show. And
You'd be amazed how many people love the drops.
you know what else? Jessica knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
Here it comes!
I mean, if you're going to have a niche that's this small, you're going to be pretty good at it.
I never get tired of that one. Well, thank you guys for spending some time with us. We'll see you over in the champagne room, and let's play. You know what, Toussaint? Let's play the new outro that the kid made. The kid Quinn made.
The intern. Let's go for it.
You want to call him the intern or the kid? I like the kid.
I want to call him the internet because that's the typo that you made in our group chat.
Was that
So
I made another typo you were shitting on me for. Was that the only one?
No, there's so many to keep track of. It's like, what are your thumbs even shaped like? Like,
My thumbs have a lazy eye.
okay.
Jessica, thank you. And you'll be joining us for the Champagne room?
I will. Thank you for having me.
So once again, if you guys have any legal questions, please feel free to call. Jessica's here today to answer all of your legal questions.
But it's not a licensed attorney.